Hello once again, everybody. This is Josag reporting for Footy Talks, and I'm so happy to be here reporting this right now because what a week of football we had. What a weekend of football, rather. It was such an amazing weekend of football. The Manchester Derby, Arsenal's 0-0 draw with Nottingham Forest, as well as Liverpool playing a one-hole draw with Burnley, Nigeria defeating Egypt to claim bronze medal and third place in the AFCON on penalties, and the biggest of them all to me, the AFCON final, the game between Senegal and Morocco. What a controversial match of football that was. Honestly, I was bamboozled by some of the decisions the ref made on that very game. Like, that game was a game filled with controversy. It was controversial decisions from the beginning to the end. Well, let's start with the Manchester Derby. This is Josag reporting for Footy Talks, and the Manchester Derby was one of the most shocking games of the weekend, considering the fact that United recently just sacked their manager Ruben Amorim and signed in an interim coach being Michael Carrick. Yes, I felt it was going to be under less pressure, and I personally feel that game would have gone in a different direction, but football being football remains unpredictable. United came out 2-0 winners, deservedly so. Yes, United actually deserved the victory because United dominated the game from start to finish. United dominated the game, and City were just they looked lost all through the game. United could have easily gone on to win that game 7-0. They had 3 goals disallowed for offside, which till now I don't understand why the third goal, being Messi Mount's goal, was disallowed. No review, no replay was shown. Nothing reasonable was given why that goal was disallowed. I personally feel that goal was a clear, perfect goal and should have stood. United hit the bar 2 times. Donnarumma had a series of amazing saves. We all know him as a world-class goalkeeper. He never fails to show that to our faces, and that game was one of the games where he was City's best player to me. Yeah, it was City's best player. There was a controversial decision in that game as well. Most people feeling Diogo Dalot should have seen red for his tackle on Jeremy Doku. Well, whenever things are posted on slow motion, it's usually very, very dangerous. When in real-time play, we saw that it was just a glance through his knee. He was given a yellow, and that was just it on that game. United came as 2-0 winners. Goals coming from Patrick Dogu as well as Mbeumo. Who else but Brian Mbeumo? Yes, there were the 2 goal scorers for Manchester United, and that was why United was catapulted to 4th place when that game was over. Although Liverpool reclaimed their 4th position with a 1-1 draw, now they're just 1 point ahead of Manchester United. While Chelsea came out 2-0 winners in their game, which sees them now 1 point behind United, who is in 5th. Chelsea is in 6th, and shockingly, Arsenal were unable to get a goal and the victory against struggling Nottingham Forest. Sometimes I wonder why these struggling teams magically just turn out to be good against top oppositions, because we see the game between Liverpool and Burnley and then 1-1. No one could have seen that coming. But the shock of the EPL for me was Everton defeating Aston Villa, who were looking to cut the gap on Arsenal and make it just 4 points. I was actually rooting for Aston Villa to win because they went on a crazy run some time back where they had, was it 10 or 11 games straight victories, defeating the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea, and Man City along the way. I thought that game against Everton was going to be a very simple game. Apparently not. Football remains unpredictable, like I earlier said, and it was a 1-0 victory in favor of Everton. Still sees Aston Villa tied on 43 points with Man City, who is second. Aston Villa is third. Then Arsenal remains on the first position. Nothing could have changed for that. They are 50 points, 6 points ahead. But now Arsenal has a tough game coming against Manchester United next weekend. United somehow tend to be prime Barcelona when they're playing against any of the top teams. And this season, United are trying to show their strength, that they are one of the top teams in England as well. They've been very, very far away from that skill, but this season they are showing that there's still a fight left in them, in the name Manchester United. Now let's creep away from them and let's visit La Liga. Yeah, I can talk about 2 games in La Liga. Madrid came out 2-0 winners in their own game, which see them go just 1 point behind Barcelona. Madrid won their match on Saturday, and Barcelona were looking to extend the point back to a 4-point gap. But shockingly, their unbeaten run came to an end yesterday against Real Sociedad. Yes, Real Sociedad defeated Barcelona 2-1. Barcelona, who were away, played tough and all, but Real Sociedad just wouldn't say no. They took the lead in the first half. Barcelona equalized in the second half, and it was looking like Barcelona was going to snatch it. But Real Sociedad came from nowhere and reclaimed their lead. And that was the final score of the game, which saw the game ended 2-1 in favor of Real Sociedad. Now the La Liga race is back on, with just 1 point separating Madrid and Barcelona. There's a second leg of the Clásico still to come. Can we call that? Never can tell who can be the champions of Spain right now in this very moment. But Barcelona remain first in the league. They have 1 point ahead of Real Madrid. Now to the AFCON. Nigeria and Egypt played out on a 0-0 draw for 120 minutes for the third place match of the AFCON. Yes, it was a 0-0 game. Nigeria won 4-2 on penalties, with Stanley Nwabali saving 2 star penalties on that game. He saved the first penalty by Mohamed Salah, as well as the second penalty from Omar Mamouche of Man City. Nigeria lost their first penalty, which was taken by Dele Bashiru, but went ahead to convert their last 4 penalties and won that game deservedly so, because I feel Nigeria, from their gameplay which they played all through the competition, deserved a medal. Yes, they were the bronze medalists in that game, and Nigeria still remains the most decorated African team, having won the most medals, either gold, silver or bronze. Nigeria always tend to come home with something. They've missed out on medals on, I think, just 3 occasions, but once again we came back with a bronze medal, and the Super Eagles undoubtedly so deserved this one. The final of the AFCON was the game between Senegal versus Morocco. What a game! What a game of football. Honestly, that game was the most controversial game I've seen all season. Yes, we know Morocco were the hosts, spent over $2 billion, which made the competition one of the best AFCONs we've seen in a very long time. But the refereeing decisions were so controversial all through the tournament in favor of Morocco. Yes, this is the first time a nation out of North Africa has come away from North African competition, where a North Africa hosts the AFCON. Whenever a North African host, there's always a North African winner. But history are there and records are there to be broken. This time, Senegal and Mane broke that record after an amazingly crazy game, because in the 92nd minute, Senegal scored a perfectly fine goal but was ruled for a foul on Achraf Hakimi, which, come on, we all saw that game. There was no way in the world you're going to tell me that Hakimi was not strong enough to hold a simple touch. It fell down cheapishly, and the referee ruled in his favor and disallowed a perfectly fine goal for Senegal. Just 3 minutes later, awarded the most undeserved penalty I've ever seen since I've been watching football. A simple touch, and Brahim Diaz went down. Then he went to the VAR and came back and said he's sticking to his decision, his original decision of penalty. Crazy, super crazy. The Senegalese coach Malick Thiaw was furious, asked his players to come off the pitch, like, we not do a game, we not give them the cup and win, that there's nothing else to be seen. And the game was opted for 10 whole minutes. All of the Senegalese team were back in their dressing room apart from Sadio Mane. And it was still Sadio Mane who went back and tried to speak to his teammates to come back into the field, that this is football, no matter what the referee does, blah, 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 blah. And they came back into the game to continue, just for Brahim Diaz to attempt a Panenka on the 918th minute of the game, which was the last kick of the game. At that point, before the spot kick was taken, the fans of the Senegal and the stadium had gone crazy, vandalizing the stadium, attacking security of the pitch. It was just chaos, ultimate chaos from the starting to the ending. And sometimes we need those kind of things in football, because the Moroccans, they had so many decisions in their favor all through the competition. Penalties for in their favor, but none going against them. We had different games where there could have been awarded penalties against them, but none were given. There was the game against, was it Tanzania, as well as, I'm forgetting the other nation, one of the lowly ranked nations of the tournament, who could have easily been awarded a penalty but wasn't given. And they gave Morocco all sorts of absurd penalties. The match against Tanzania, the player on the floor, the ball was kicked to his arm, penalty was awarded. But this time, no. Football won against corruption. I'm not going to be all Mickey and not say the truth. Morocco had tons of decisions going their way all through the competition. But this time, not to happen. It wasn't meant to be, as Brahim Diaz tried the Panenka and Eduardo Mendy stood his ground and saved that one. Saved the penalty, which was the last kick of the game. The referee blew the final whistle, and onto extra time the game went. Just few minutes into extra time, Senegal took the lead from an amazing play from Sadio Mane, but the goal was scored by Papi Cisse. Like, it was crazy. Papi Gaye was it, or was it Papi Cisse? I can't even remember, but that game was just fit to be a final, and the goal was an absolute banger. It was a goal worth winning any competition in the world. It was falling off balance, but he managed to keep his balance and struck a well-positioned shot straight to the roof of the net, skipping through the bar, and it was meant to be Senegal's night after all, as that was the final goal, which shockingly was the first goal Morocco had conceived in almost 2 years. Wow. I know Morocco to be the best team in Africa in their playing style. They shocked the world in the recent World Cup where they finished fourth position, being the first African nations to proceed to the semi-final. They have they have top stars. I wonder why they're trying to sneak away with this tournament. I'm pretty sure if they have played fairly, they could have won it. But trying to bring in corruption into football is never going to work. Although some people have their say on the last World Cup, but personally, I feel this Nations Cup was just too harsh, and deservedly so. They lost the final. Yeah, we saw Brahim Diaz crying on the bench after the penalty was missed and after Senegal took the lead. But come on, that was just what's meant to be. It was meant to be that way, and we are all glad it happened that way. The only people feeling bad right now are the Moroccans. Every other part of Africa, and even their fellow North Africans, being Mali, being Tunisia, as well as Algeria or maybe Egypt, are happy Senegal won this competition, because Morocco haven't won a trophy in over 50 years. So I could understand why they were having decisions going in their favor, but not in every game. They were even trying to steal towels. They stole 3 towels from the Nigeria goalkeeper, and they stole 2 towels from the Senegalese goalkeeper. I wonder what they're doing with those towels. We saw their captain Achraf Hakimi tossing one of Mendy's towel out the field. Crazy. Super crazy. But football won. Mane lifted the trophy. Now he's one of the only Africans who has lifted 2 AFCONs. Like, he is going to go down clearly as one of the greatest ever African football players. And his level of sportsmanship, which he showed yesterday, was just so high. No one clearly can dispute the fact why Sadio Mane is one of the greatest of Africa. Congratulations to Senegal. Congratulations to Senegal. Congratulations to Senegal. I was happy over my head yesterday. I was screaming all over my house, jumping up and down, because come on, we all hate corruption, and it is so glad and it's so joyful to see that corruption lost and football won. Congratulations to Morocco. Psych! Congratulations to Senegal. Peace and love. This is just like a for Footy Talks.